We are joined by Jeff Balaban live from Israel. Will, and there has been some updates. We wanted to get some reaction from Jeff.
That's right. And Jeff, you and I had been talking yesterday as you were back en route to Israel about the situation that unfolded at the UN Security Council. And this is where the United States took a new move there, and they kind of called back to the Obama playbook of allowing something to pass that damages Israel by just saying, we're here, but we're not going to vote. What's your readout on the abstention vote from the United States yesterday that allowed a ceasefire resolution to pass the UN Security Council?
Well, you know what they say, silence is deemed consent. And the fact that the United States abstained as the UN handed this unbelievable victory to Hamas, to its Iranian backers, to those who wish death and destruction on Israel, on the Jews, on America, just tells you exactly what an evil turn this has taken. And I could tell you from the moment I arrived here in Israel, that's been the conversation, ranging from shock and dismay to fury and anger at this betrayal by the Biden administration of the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
And I want to get your take on this because this is, I'm going to read you what Admiral Kirby said as they try to spin that they were not supporting this measure because they abstained. And then I kind of want to push back on this because that's what we do at the ACLJ. We point out the hypocrisy or the anti-Semitism or any other manner of anti-Israel action that goes on with this government. But Admiral Kirby said, because the final text does not have key language we view as essential, notably a condemnation of Hamas, we could not support it. So he's going out on television at a press conference saying we could not support it. But as you said, silence is consent in this manner. What's your response to Admiral Kirby?
We know that there have been other administrations, and not just Republican administrations. There were some spectacular administrations at the UN who had our ambassadors to the UN who represented America as a light to the nations, a light to the world, as opposed to just adding to the darkness, which is what's happened here, to turning our lights out. No, the truth is that this was a statement of pure evil. This is a statement that evil wins, that it's okay to launch a massive, not just terror attack, but it's a war on an innocent nation against innocent men, women, and children, and that the world will back you because the U.S. is in the hands of a feckless administration that, as we all know, because what I find fascinating is that the media reports this widely and nobody even seems to understand, no one contradicts it, understands the morality that's implied here, which is that everyone talks about the, quote, two-state solution, Michigan and Minnesota, because obviously the Democrats want to keep those two states, which are important swing states, which have heavy anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, Muslim communities and voters. Not to say that all Muslim communities and voters are anti-Semitic, but the ones in Michigan and Minnesota certainly are. And it's clear that for this domestic concern, they're throwing Israel under the bus. Let me tell you, America should not be following. America should be leading. They should be down there remonstrating against the evil of this idea of calling for a ceasefire, which is to say Hamas wins, terror wins. But, you know, it's completely consistent with what this administration has done since the beginning, which used this horrible attack on Jewish civilians, on Israeli innocents, to call for the creation of a Palestinian state. And now they're strengthening Hamas, which has always been the dominant force in Palestinian control and power. They're strengthening Hamas as the leadership, ensuring that if Hamas survives, which they're trying to keep, which America seems to be trying to keep happening, then they will be in control. This is nothing but other than an absolute disaster.
Jeff, I just was curious from a humanitarian point of view even. I think we're seeing so much, and on the media when they're covering Israel, we're seeing Gaza, we're seeing destruction, we're seeing all the kind of chaos that surrounds it. What is the life during wartime in Israel? I just want to know, what's the feeling, the emotion on the streets at this point? We are months into this. It's not like, you know, the days where every business is shut down and they're trying to figure out what to do. We're now 6 months into this. Plus at this point, what does it feel like to be there? I've only been there during, you know, obviously there's always times of struggle in Israel. There's always times of you got to always be safe and be aware, but you can not put your guard down, but it doesn't feel like an unsafe place to be just walking around. Obviously, we know the anti-Israel sentiment that's happening even in our college campuses here. We had in Vanderbilt here, we had an issue yesterday. But But what about there on the ground? Because we're not seeing regular Israeli life by any means being portrayed in the media.
It's a great question, Logan. And it's very difficult to answer unless someone's actually here, because on the one hand, everything has changed. Nothing is normal. There's not a family here that hasn't lost somebody close to them. There's not a family here or who hasn't had someone serve for months in horrific danger, and therefore is agonizing every moment of the day about their father, their mother, their brother, their sister, their child, their parent. It's an ongoing trauma. The trauma of the hostages is an ongoing trauma. It's a very small nation. It's a nation that feels much more like a family. And so there is trauma, and yet life does go on. And part of the problem is that the people in this country have learned how to live with a certain level of violence and terror. And yet what's extraordinary is, and I wonder what will happen this year, every year after year, they do a poll internationally. I forget under whose auspices, of the happiest countries in the world. Israel is always in the top 10. Both the Jews and the Arabs here are always in the top 10 of happiness. Happiness is not related to your danger. It's not related to your physical comfort. Happiness is related, I believe, to being a sense of living a life that's connected to what you're supposed to be doing. And I think everyone who lives here recognizes that it's important. The Jews have come back to our homeland, and it's important to just to exist and forge ahead.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you hopping on today, live from Israel, running our office in Israel, the ACLJ Jerusalem. We couldn't be more proud to have that set up there, and hopefully that expands and grows as the support continues from a lot of people here. You'll see the press, and you'll feel like everyone in America is now on one side of this issue. We all know that it's a very divided country, and sadly, this has become one of those topics that felt like it didn't used to be divided, but now you're seeing a coalition of folks that maybe you never thought would in support of Israel, and then, of course, those who are against it. We cannot put together this amazing broadcast each and every day. We cannot do this incredible legal work without you, and of course, without the grace of God to help us push forward, even in times in this country where it feels like, the bridges are falling down all over the place, whether that's literal or metaphorical. And we couldn't do that and be there for you. And honestly, also be there for you when you need legal help. Understand that as well. I always push that because I don't think we talk about it enough. If you go to aclj.org/help, and it's within our scope of what we do here at the ACLJ, you are assigned a lawyer immediately and at no cost. No cost to you. That is wild. No one offers that. Go to aclj.org/help if you need legal help right now. But right now, if you want to always make sure we're there, that safety net is there for you, for this country, and for you personally and your family, we need your support. So go to aclj.org, make a donation today to explain a matching month, if you will, right now. This Life and Liberty Drive also is matched. So all donations, individual donations, are doubled.